Hello and welcome everyone, this is Type V3 and Nostalgia Eat Your Heart Out. This is the super robot Chogokin Daizyujin, or as he's more commonly recognized, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Dino Megazord. Toys don't get any more epic than this. Bold, imposing, vibrant, the Megazord has never looked so good, but this is mostly due to the fact that the sculpt and proportions are inaccurate to both the original toy and on-screen suit actor. Where this figure takes a lot of its inspiration from is the 90s anime Super Robots. More specifically, he's got a compressed torso, shrunken head, and enlarged limbs. Then there's all the small details that's been changed as well. The wheels and treads on the backs of his legs are hilariously small, as is the tail of the pterodactyl that forms the top of his waist, and even the guns on his back are placed higher and closer together. What this Megazord loses in sheer bulk, he gains in pure definition. Moreover, this figure retains the trademark blockiness of the original design without having to resort to looking like a pile of cardboard boxes. Then there's the paint job on this SRC. Combinations of glossy, matte, and metallic finishes envelop the sculpt from head to toe. The colors all pop and there's been no evidence of quality control issues on the entire figure. The silver paint has an almost mesmerizing glimmer to it, and the pinstriping on the head sculpt is clean and impressive. If there's an area that I think could have used a little extra, it would be on his back. I would have liked some black lining on the rear waist piece, as well as the guns, just to break up the giant solid blocks of color. But in truth, it's not that big of an issue. Now the diecast on this figure is restricted to the chest and the legs, so when you pick him up he's hefty, and when you drop him, he's solid. And I really like that about this figure. I have no issues whatsoever if this thing ever falls on my shelf. I'm pretty sure it won't break. As for articulation, the neck has two ball joints, one at the base and one at the top of it, so it's very emotive. And these crest pieces, even though they're thin, they don't feel very fragile, so I don't think I'll ever break them. The shoulders are squeaky, so you can always fix that with some silicone shock oil, but for now it's fine for me. But what's cool is that they even extend outwards like that to add even more, so if you want to pump his chest, you could totally do that. Bicep swivel, and the armor plate is on a second joint as well. The elbow joint is awesome because of just how much range it has in its double jointing. It's pretty cool, but even more so than that, the wrist can also joint inwards, so you can go even farther. Not that you'd ever use it, but if you ever wanted him punching his shoulder, you could do that. And of course, the wrists are on ball joints. Now the torso, the waist swivel is there, but you can't really access it because of the way that this waist piece is designed, so it's built in, but you can't really do anything with it. As for the ab crunch, it's a little minimal, but if you extend the torso, then you can really access it, and that makes it just awesome. The side to side is a bit weak, but the back and forth is great. Moving lower, when it comes to these hip joints, they're on die-cast ball joints, so they're very, very tight. Especially out of the box, they almost feel like they don't want to move, but after a while, they'll get moving. And even all the skirt pieces can flip out and get out of the way for you. The knee joint is double jointed, but it's cool because there's a segmented piece here, so that just stays on, and check that out. That is really cool stuff. Great amount of range in that joint. I really adore that. The toes are cool too because they can move on their own, but then they also extend, and on the lion here, or the saber tooth, the feet come down and then the toe comes up, so that just creates for even more playability there. Even here on the Triceratops, it can do that too. Now the party piece for this is the guns. Now in the original Megazord, both toy and show, these things were almost never used. But on this figure, they're on ball joints, and that means you can pull them up and use them, which is just awesome. Now unfortunately they don't really lock into place, so when you put them back they kind of just have areas that are kind of grooved to hold it there, and for the most part they do their job. It would have been nice to have some sort of locking mechanism, but they're never really moving out of place, so I don't have that much of an issue with it. So that's a really neat feature, and overall articulation is pretty good. It's certainly not the best I've seen in the world, but it's definitely up there, and I am in love with it. The SRC Megazord comes with a total of 3 pairs of hands. He's got fists that will generally suit any pose, or you can just use them to punch things. Then there's the open palms, which make the Megazord look incredibly expressive and dynamic. I was surprised at how much I found myself liking these. The final pair of hands are purpose-built, and that single purpose is to wield the Megazord's weapons. The Power Sword and Mastodon Shield, these are the tools the Megazord employs when striking down giant monsters. Like the base figure itself, the accessories are beautifully sculpted and painted too. They also fit snugly and securely in the Megazord's hands. Now, the Mastodon's trunk and tusks aren't screen accurate as they should be silver in color, but I quite like and prefer the gunmetal finish Bandai's opted for here. Lastly, a figure these days cannot be considered complete without some effect parts, and of course, this Super Robot Chogokin is no exception. The Power Sword gets a slip-on lightning effect. It's definitely cool, but I do wish the white casing were transparent so that you could see the sword beneath it. The other effect part is the red and blue beam that emits from the forehead crest. Attachment is simple and the swivel feature is a nice touch. However, be careful when using this as there have been reports of the paint on the Megazord's horn being chipped off. Apart from that small issue, both of these effect parts look great. All in all, this is a wonderful figure and one that I'm just so enamored with. The die-cast and paint job give the Megazord a quality look and hefty feel. The engineering of the articulation is incredible and impressive. There's plenty of accessories included, and aesthetically, he's gorgeous. He looks like what your childhood memories remember him as, and not the harsh reality of an actor whose cheap suit was made of cardboard. Drawbacks? Well, I guess he could have been a bit bigger, and an included display stand would have been nice. But here's the thing. At a retail price of $50, I think that you get more than your money's worth, and this easily outclasses more expensive figures. Now, this does mean that the SRC Megazord is a tad more expensive than other 6-inch robot figures, such as Revoltex or Robot Spirits, but it also feels like a much more premium product. Honestly, I would still be satisfied if this figure cost me $70. If you're someone who grew up in the 90s and loved the Power Rangers, then this is a figure worth looking into. Even if you're not a toy collector, I'd still recommend this one. Above all, if you're the type of person who just loves to relive the magic of being a child, then look no further, because that's exactly what the Super Robot Chogokin Megazord aims to hit. And boy, does it hit hard. Anyways, this has been Type V3. Thanks for watching, and I'll admit, there may have been a little bit of bias in this review. But all the praise I've given this figure is rightfully deserved. I only hope that we see more Mighty Morphin Power Rangers robots in SRC's future lineup, because as much as I love the Dino Megazord, he was never my favorite. My true allegiance has always lied with the giant green dragon knight wielding that awfully large lance.